This is the sound of the Killa beatbox body part sample pack. Over 120 loops, samples, and one-shots for your music production. Exclusively on Splice.
Cool. Yeah. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Killa podcast, and we are inside the ride with a new man at the moment. This is Vanilla Ace.
Yes, aka Sam Young.
aka Sam Young, which is where we first.
That's where we first met.
Yeah. It's funny. We were just talking about this before we rolled through, and it was like it's mad. It's to think that back then it was all about going to those kind of 100 clubs and things like that. Where you'd like hang out and meet up people. I think that's probably where we first crossed paths.
Maybe you might come to our Bungalow 8 party or something like that.
Yeah.
And me and John, me and my old buddy John Wolfe used to do a party at Bungalow 8, which was kind of like very industry, and loads of people would come through to that. So we did that for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And for a while that was like the hot party, and we had everyone from like Goldie, Ronnie Size, like Hot Chip, like Arthur Baker, loads of my New York buddies like Ross One and all these guys just come and just guest DJ and stuff. And then we even discovered a lot of talent there as well. There's this female DJ now who's doing really great, Caper.
Dude, Caper's awesome.
Yeah, she was one of our residents, and that's how kind of she got discovered.
And a lot of talent was garnered around that time. I remember I was so green at that time, trying to like get in with all that kind of crowd and just trying to build up, connect, because that was really.
Even Ed Sheeran used to come down before he was signed.
It was right in that interim when record shops suddenly started on a decline, and you just had to go somewhere and just hang out with people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt like club, because I had the Spit Kingdom night at Herbal.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Actually, you never played that, did you?
No, I know there's Herbal. No. I used to go only one of those nights I used to go to. My friend Harry Love used to do like Kung Fu.
That's it, yeah.
So I used to go to that. That was in Camden. But yeah, no, Clubland has changed a lot.
Yeah, it has. And so's the music policies now, how it all works. And I mean, you were never, from what I remember, like the house DJ that you are now.
No. I mean, the Vanilla Race thing is a side project, so I still do all the normal Sam Young gigs.
Uh-huh.
But not as much, because obviously when you step out of the scene to do something else, you kind of like all your, everyone else, all the vultures come and start like take all the gigs and stuff.
Of course they do.
And you know how it is.
Yeah.
And so when I started touring with the Vanilla Race thing, kind of, I'll start from the beginning. So during like early 2000s, from the very early 2000s, I worked at a record label called Concept Music. It was a small independent. I was doing like A&R, like, talent scouting. Basically, I was a T-boy, post-boy, you name it. It's a really small company, like, less than 10 people. And then one day I got a demo on my desk, this band called Syracuse, who ended up being called Kasabian. Long story short, I left my job, signed Kasabian, the BMG, via my friend Darren, this guy Darren Dixon, who was doing A&R there.
He signed me.
Well, there you go. And then, so Darren was looking for talent. I emailed him and said, I've got this band Syracuse, you should check them out. And then they changed the name to Kasabian. Long story short, they go on to be the biggest, one of the biggest bands in Europe.
Standard.
And then I knew they were special from the minute when I first heard their demo. And then I was really in love with DJing and stuff. So when I first met Kasabian, they would come out to my club nights. They come to my gigs. So we were like hanging out, almost like, really good friends. And then obviously lawyers and managers and all this stuff get involved. And then, then we kind of didn't speak again. Once pen to paper, it was like, oh no, we're not allowed to talk to you because it was all got very complicated. Mm-hmm. And then I just went on to DJ full time. My dream was to DJ. This is pre-Serato and all this stuff. So this is still vinyl days. And then I went to DJ. I was DJing in London for like 15 years, 6-7 nights a week. So I did all that every West End club that opened, closed. I'd say 95% I was.
It ain't your first rodeo, is it, mate?
No. So I did all those clubs, like from the original Funky Buddha, like Tokyo Joe's, 57 German Street, original China White, Bougie. I was at 12 years. There's so many.
How did you get into that situation where you were able to garner so many slots and spots across London? Because bear in mind, London, although it's big and there's the divides, it's still quite a self-contained scene itself.
Because in those days you didn't really have the East End, the East London aspect of it. That came later. But when I first started, I was like the warm-up guy for all the older dudes.
Right.
I was kind of like, out of my friends, I'm kind of like the older one. But to the older guys, I was the younger one. So when I first started doing Wednesday, so basically my big break was I was one night, I was out, I can't remember where I was just out in the town, and I rang my dad. My dad's a photographer, and he does all these VIP openings and celebrity.
Nice.
He's Richard Young. He's got a gallery in High Street. You should go and look at.
Yeah, go and check that out.
Yeah, name drop.
There you go.
Yeah. And he's done loads of books and stuff on all his pictures and stuff, and he's pretty well known. So I just rang him up one night, and this is when I was like really hungry DJ and just basically a music fan, and he was just like, "I'm at this Donna Karan party, come by." And I went there, as usual, everyone sipping champagne and talking the crap and whatever. Yeah. And then I overhear this lady talking to my dad, going, "Oh, I'm having my birthday at the Mayfair Club." Mayfair Club is now Nobu, Berkeley Street. So I said to my dad, "Oh, who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's Jeanette Cleaver. She runs really big like event planners, party planners, PR." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Go and talk to her." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I go up to her and I say, "How am a DJ?" I'm only like 18, 19. Yeah. And then she's just like, she gives me her card. I think I rang her the next day or the next week to say, "No, this, if anything comes up, whatever." They ring me back a few days later, and funny enough, Femi Fem, Young Disciples, Femi Fem subtraining rotation, he pulls out of DJing her birthday, so she asked me to do it at last minute. She's like,
"Fortune favours the brave, man."
So they're like, "Sam, can you DJ my Jeanette's birthday on this Saturday?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure." I mean, at this point, at that time, about my friend, I had a really good friend of mine, Simon, he didn't have the record collection, but he was friends with like me and Harry Love, but he was really good at mixing. And I wasn't good at mixing then. I had the records, but I wasn't good at mixing. So this was my first gig doing it by myself. I don't know why Simon didn't come with me. Mm-hmm. And but like George Michael was there and all these other Simon Le Bon and all these people. And I'm only like 19 years old. And and it's kind of like, "Oh, Sam, you okay with getting paid £300? And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm living at home, and I'm like, 19 years old. I'm like, "Yeah, great."
Well, should I'd rather be for £300? And
I just get to play like my favorite, hip hop and disco records, and I mean that's what I played back then. I wasn't really into the house thing yet. I was playing like more like disco, funk, like hip hop and R&B and stuff. And then, I don't think. I mean, it probably did okay. No one dragged me off the decks.
Yeah,
but, you know what I mean?
You didn't get the knock.
I didn't get knocked. But from that point onwards, they were like, "Yeah, he's all right." And then that was like the start of the China White Wednesdays, which was like probably the prototype VIP club night in London. That's what all these other clubs now follow. Was the original China White Wednesdays, the velvet rope, hard to get into. Yeah. Everyone there, everyone wanting to go there. Like China White Wednesdays, for that first couple of years, was probably the equivalent of what Studio 54 was like back in the day. Massive crowd outside. Sick, You couldn't get in unless you knew someone. Midweek, like it was insane. It was like a riot on that street. And there
was it like in there then? Was it just like Ramajam? Was it like?
Yeah, it was insane, and it was an amazing club as well.
I think I've been there.
Yeah, you probably did. And they would start calling me up and be like, "Oh, Sam, can you do the opening set for like our residents on the Wednesday?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." So I started doing, there. I'm still in college, and I'm there on Wednesday night.
And you were doing it as you go along in China Whites.
Yeah.
So, learning the ropes.
Yeah, so I'm just learning the ropes, doing, opening up for these guys like, people don't talk about the resident DJ, like kind of like the guys who did it before, I don't know. I think in America and stuff, they appreciate the
groundwork.
The groundwork and the DJs a bit more. In London, it's kind of like, they're kind of like, I don't know, no one really talks about it. But like, so I was warming up for guys like Sam and this guy called Sam and JC. Sam was a big garage producer. He was part of, I think it's Doubleholics. So they did loads of garage stuff as well. So like Sam and JC, this guy Sinbad, who was very flamboyant. He'd wear like, you know, big fur coats, big glasses, and then there's Dom T. And Dom T was, I'm still friends with his friend Dom was like friends with Nelly Hooper, and he ended up getting married to one of the Atomic Kittens in those days and stuff. And so I was warming up for those guys, and obviously they always just saw me as this like young rugrat guy. But no, I'm friends with them all now, funnily enough, you know, as time goes on. And so then eventually it got to a point where they started asking me to do the main set. They're like, "Oh, Sam, can you do the main set?" And then it kind of from there, this, you know, kind of snowballed. And then I met, you know, other promoters like this guy like Nick House. Nick House for a while during the mid 2000s had this thing called London Entertainment. So he ran loads of clubs. So I was like one of his first DJs. And then this other guy, Tim Wade, he had the Funky Bitter Tuesday, which was probably the first ghetto fabulous hip hop night in London for a while.
So you were still quite entrenched in that kind of hip hop party style.
It was my first love, yeah. It was my first love. So if I can go and play a hip hop party, I mean, when I used to do the Funky Bitter Tuesdays, I was like the only white guy in there. It was all drug dealers, footballers, and pay tree girls. and I remember the.
What more do you need?
And I remember the very last night that it shut down. It literally got shut down by the police.
Really?
Armed police walked in,
Why?
closed the night because there was just too many gangsters and drug dealers. Yeah, literally, armed police walked in. That's it, done.
Mad.
Yes. They're like,
what way to go out?
And I was like, thank God I didn't take my records, and I just like went home.
Yeah.
And it was a way to go out. And then they had to like, then eventually like the club is now something else. It's called Charlie now or something.
It's mad. Like when I get into these podcasts and some of these urban myths, these sort of stories that come out from people of like how they experience certain things. Yeah. It's mad to think that wouldn't even, that's not even documented as being like a moment that happened unless you were there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember it got because it was getting it wasn't like nowadays where like people are getting like stabbed out in the street and stuff, but it was rough, and there was definitely an edge to that night. So like I remember one night even having like Mark Ronson come down and play with me, because I know Mark since years back, and I used to get him the odd gig in London. So I remember one night I think he was in town promoting Ooh-Wee, so this is like 2005 or something. Yeah. And he came down to play with me at Funky Bird, and like literally me and him like the early two white guys in there, and it's like it's proper hood. Like it's like all the footballers, it's all the the old page three girls like the Jodie, I can't remember her name now, but like all the old girls, all the old glamour girls and stuff. Yeah. And but that's what it was like in those days. It was funny.
Flamboyancy and opulence.
Yeah, and then after that, there was not really a hip hop night, so I went and started my own one at Bougie on a Sunday. So Bougie Sunday for a while was like it was like a hip hop R&B night. But when that started, actually I started that with John Wolfe, who manages Wiley, and he's done a lot of stuff now. But obviously back then, me and John were still wet behind the ears, and
he was dripping behind the ears, was John.
Yeah, so so when we first started doing Bougie Sundays, it was a bit hood as well. Like we'd have like all the So Solid guys show up and all these other lot, and it got a bit too like for the club there, because they're like South Kensington, they're a bit like it does sound a bit. In those days, clubs were a bit racist. Like if it got too black or too Asian or whatever, they're like, oh no, this is not our clientele.
Do you think I get you. Do you think? Because with the clubs that I would promote or be a part of, a lot of them were like real kind of in the scene. You don't have to answer directly this. You'd have to tell me figures or anything. But like when you go to a place like Bougie or China Whites or Nobu, like the clientele is obviously going to reflect the kind of genre and the music and stuff. But is there more money in that world for you to put on a club night compared to like more of the genre specific?
Maybe, but I think it's changed now because hip hop and R&B is like so pop music now. So if you go to the West, say you went out to, it's a Friday, say today is Friday, and you went out to all the West End clubs now, and there's only a handful now because so many are closed. And the scary thing is they're all playing the same music.
All the same music, yeah.
All playing the same music, all playing the same Drake, Young Thug, Future.
Yeah.
There's no house music. Not like back in the day. It was quite eclectic.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd
You'd
hear-
even have rooms.
Yeah.
sometimes.
You'd have rooms, yeah. But back in the day, when there was just one room, you'd be playing rock, hip hop, funky house, like a bit of disco, like whatever. You kind of, if it worked, it worked. Like and that's what London originally was. So I always used to laugh when I'd meet all these American DJs and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, we're open format and we do this and we do that." And it's like, yeah, well, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
Beat DJs have been doing that since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You know, back in the 80s,
days.
like
yeah.
I'm friends with like Rusty Egan, who's one of the original 80s DJs, and you know, he tells me stories like when they were the first hip hop records and house records, they played that all alongside all the 80s and other stuff. There was no like set thing. It was like if it was good, it was getting played.
That's right, yeah. Todd Terry, he
Yeah.
said the same thing. Like
So-
a lot of those hip hop DJs, like Lord Finesse and all, they love playing house music. They love digging for breaks that are of that disco era.
Yeah. Well, that's what got me. Well, we'll get into that, but that's what got me into house music. Is through my love of hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like.
We'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that.
So that's kind of what. Yeah, that's kind of because of my love of hip hop and reading liner notes and going and finding breaks. That's kind of like what got me into making house music.
But why is it now the case that everything is so linear? Would you blame technology for the lack of club variety?
Yeah, I think it's definitely technology. Technology is a gift and a curse. Because I remember when I got Serato, I think it was 2004 or 5. At first, like I remember seeing a friend. 'Cause I used to do another funny story. So I used to do a Tuesday night at this club called Raffles in Kings Road for this guy Blaze Belleville. And Blaze now runs Boiler Room. Right. So small world.
Yeah,
so I
totally.
used to be his resident DJ, and Blaze was, I don't want to put Blaze on in it, right? But Blaze was, you know, posh boy from that area, knew all the Chelsea kids. So he had this really, really fun Tuesday night raffles. So I used to be the resident, and every week was different. So some weeks we play a bit more hip hop than house, and then some weeks we play more house and whatever. It's kind of like a mixture of the both, mix it up. And then one week I walk in, and Blaze and his mate are using this laptop to DJ with, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And they're like, "Oh, Serato," and I was like, "Huh?" And I saw what they were doing. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" Then like I think that week I just went out and got it. I was like, "Oh god, this is the future. I've got to get this."
Yeah.
And then that kind of changed my life. And I think it changed the whole industry, because before that you had like, unless you were like anti-technology, like you were like, "Oh, I'm not trusting laptop." And I remember people used to scoff at me when I first started using Serato. People used to look at me, "Oh, what are you doing on a laptop? What?" They were like, "Whoa,
Totally.
mind blowing! Like, what's going on?" But it kind of ruined the whole community of the DJ thing. Because I remember I'd go I was such good friends with all the guys in the record shops. And it's like, you know, straight away I was like, I don't need to see those guys anymore.
Yeah.
They don't need to take my money anymore. I mean, I probably saved an absolute fortune. Yeah, exactly. I saved a fortune. No, because straight away I just thought financially, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to save so much money.
Yeah,
with this.
totally.
I don't need to spend like £300 a week on records.
Yeah.
Even though I was getting sent so many records by the record labels, you know, I was getting sent acetates and stuff.
Yeah. But you
play in
couldn't
the clubs.
validate it for the kind of gig money you were getting.
Yeah, of course. But then I just straight away I just saw, you know, I saw the future. I was like, this is the future. I remember back in the day when I was at the record label, when I used to work for Concept. I remember when I was reading all the stuff about Napster and MP3s and all this stuff. I remember telling my boss, I said, you know, you need to get digital, right? And I remember him laughing at me. And they were like, "Oh yeah, that's just a fad."
I'll just drop the ball here.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, I could kind of see that's going to be the future, the computers and stuff. And so going back to the Serato thing, and then it was just great because I didn't have to carry like these heavy. I mean, I'm way weaker now than I was then, because obviously I was so strong from carrying all these bags around. And but it was just so good, man. At the beginning, you just had so much music at your fingertips. It's like, oh my God, I can
you can go and guide
I
everywhere.
can play like 200 songs a night.
Yeah.
You know.
And what's sad is like now is like the music's become so formulaic and structured. All the variety is just almost like a USB stick and so many songs.
So when I do a normal Sam Young gig, like so tomorrow night I'm doing hip hop brunch and I'm doing 100 Wardour, both open form, like hip hop brunch is straight like 90s mid 2000s hip hop R&B.
Nice.
And then 100 Wardour is more all like the modern urban stuff like R&B hip hop and like funky house classics and like, you know, whatever. So it is a bit formulated, but you can't. I mean, you can mix it up, but then again, it kind of depends on the crowd you got in front of you.
Because sometimes they don't always want that.
No. So if you start like saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go into some like, you know, drop some like 80s and like Carl Carter's and Funkadelic and stuff," they might not like it. They might not know it. And it's kind of like that mid-20s older crowd, and they're like, "Nah, I want to hear MK. I want to hear Justin Timberlake and whatever."
That's right.
So they don't want. So it's like when I do private events for clients, and they say like, "Oh, let's have a set thing." It's like, as a DJ, you always want to just, you know, play it by ear and to see what happens on the night.
Take my journey, sort of thing. Yeah.
So you can never really plan. I hate planning anything. But then obviously, then like then end of this month, I'm doing a Vanilla Race gig at Ministry, and when I do a Vanilla Race gig, I try. It's a bit different. Like when you go to a rave, and when you go and DJ a proper rave, they don't really care what you play as long as it's good.
Yeah.
As long as they.
I've noticed that. I
mean, don't get me wrong. There's more. They get a bit more, I don't know, if you want to call it drugged up, then cool. They probably take a bit more drugs and to get more, they party a bit harder in those places.
I don't know what you're talking about, Vanilla Race. I have no idea what you mean.
You know what I mean? But, you know, but it's like, I think those kind of gigs, like when you go and play a proper rave or a festival, it's not like that's the big difference. And in a way, that's what I enjoy when I go touring as Vanilla Race, because a lot of those people, they're quite clued up on their music, and they want to go to a club and hear the latest 50 popular songs from Beatport or Traxsource. So they don't mind if you play 3 new ones in a row that they've never heard. But if it's good and it's on a big system,
you can't go wrong.
You can't really go wrong. But, you know, it's like I did a mix for Kiss last week. I did a Vanilla Race mix for Mick.
Yeah.
And that was all new music.
First 3 tunes were yours?
Yeah. I mean, I would say 70% of that was like new stuff of mine, and a few other bits of friends of mine, unreleased stuff of friends of mine. But I think in that world, it's just completely different. It's just like if you like, and I think at the end I put like a friend of mine did like a new edit of like Fish Go Deep, Cure and the Cures, and I think in that world, if you got new stuff and it's good and it's more acceptable.
It's a water tester, isn't it? It could be a commercial song later down the line.
It's a bit like my latest single and commotion, like the commotion single of Ministry. I mean, I sampled Nomad Devotion, but I made that originally as an edit for myself last February. So I was sitting on it for ages, and it took a year to come out because I was just playing it for myself. Then I ended up sending it to the guys at Eaton Messy, and I think they do a bit like A&R for Ministry, and then somehow A&R guys, I think Depeche at Ministry heard it, got in touch with my manager, and that was that.
I need to get into this. So, because one thing that maybe we share a similar relation to is because I do a lot of ID drops for different DJs, for radio and stuff like that, and the amount of sounds I kind of collate off the back of just doing loads of random sounds, it all becomes like a bit of a sound library for me to make songs. Yeah. When I hear your tunes, is that a pattern that you work by? Is like you kind of got an edit of a song, whether it be like the horn section of XYZ or the and then you kind of modify it into an idea into a tune.
I mean, I do sample a lot, but that's just the hip hop fan in me.
Yeah.
So I like to sample a lot, and so it depends. Yeah, so you can modify. You can, in the studio, you can alter and change a sample all you want. Like you can keep it really original. You can chop it up. But a lot of the times, especially when you're making, like I had a number one, I think it was last year or the year before, we just tracked the G, which was, it started as a bootleg. I did a bootleg of Black Machine's How G. And the reason why it got taken down is because we never cleared it, and I never thought.
I was thinking that.
I never thought these one-hit wonders were going to come after me.
Yeah.
And apparently the guy.
On you, man.
I shouldn't really talk about this on the podcast because.
So we'll have loads of beatbox edits covered all over the place.
But long story short, it went number one for like 2 weeks. I was holding off like Duke Dumont's and the Armin van Heldens, and then obviously the Black Machine guys came out. They're like, oh, like you just completely just done a remix of our track, but their original track is full of samples anyway, but somehow they've managed to get publishing on alongside the James Browns and the Maceo Max, who they sampled. So technically it was a remix. So ended up coming out again, but as Black Machine Hal G Vanilla Ace remix.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, great. I mean, it's I'm still happy I had a number one, but it's just a shame we couldn't have stayed up there, and we could have just changed the title.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say on it.
No, that's interesting, that the processes in which, like, it never fails to impress how, you know, when I'm doing the podcast and I talk to producers about what their processes are of making beats and constructing and the things and whereabouts in the ways that it gets to parking up in a certain way.
Yeah.
Because your sound, you said Duke Dumont, I can see the connectivity there, and the basement jacks. But then there's an SKT, there's a little bit of night bass there.
Yeah.
There's some kind of...
I'm kind of, I mean, for a while I was kind of like really into that bass house stuff, but then lately, no disrespect to guys who still make bass house, but it's kind of like gone a bit noisy for me. It's gone a bit too EDM.
Isn't that the way?
It's kind of gone a bit too EDM-y, like making music for festivals.
Yeah.
And
build.
And it's like but it's just I'm not a fan of unmusical music where it's just noise.
You like the funk?
Yeah, no, the stuff that you can feel. Like, so it can be tech house, it can be deep house, it can be anything. Like, I get sent, you know, like, after this, I'm gonna probably go home and go through all the zillion of promos I get sent every week. And I got quite, you know, I did a mix recently for this label called Let There Be House, and it's kind of like a real mix. There's like deep house on there. There's a bit like jazzy stuff. There's like some techie stuff. How normal, like, but that's just me. I mean, I just hate that whole when you're in the dance music world, they really love to pigeonhole you.
Yeah.
Kind of like, he's just soulful house.
To the type of kick you use, to the type of Harry Jack sort of thing.
It's kind of like, I mean, there's only a few labels really that kind of like don't mind what you do, but there's a few that are like, he hasn't been down with us since the beginning.
Yeah.
So,
is that more industry kind of attitude towards how you genre specify?
Maybe I don't know. They get it's very it's funny like that.
I find that's what I found about the house scene. Like, I knew dip my toe in very delicately here and there, but I always felt like, this is a little bit like it's very linear.
Yeah, it can be. It's very like that. But I don't think back in the day, I don't think it was like that. It's kind of like you just made a good tune, and that was that. And but yeah, house music, and it's very cliquey as well. Kind of like, I know like the Jack Beats guys live around here as well.
Yeah, they
I see them all the
Neil's
time.
over there,
I've never
Benny's
spoken
over
to them.
there. Yeah.
And I know they're down with night bass, and they like me. They can go to LA.
I've had them round. They've done
I really need to talk to them because I always see them like they live on my street.
I know. Well, this is the thing. When I found out how close you lived to me, I was like, dude, like, I had no idea. You just don't realise because Northwest London.
I know, and I know that Annie Mac like lives around the corner as well.
She lives over there.
Yeah. She's all local. Yeah. So I know everyone lives. I know a lot of people live around here, but that's how it is. And it's like you can live next to all the people and you don't realise, and you're like, and but yeah, what I was saying is like, before. When I first started doing the Vanilla Race thing, so I'd be touring like, I've been to Brazil like 25 times.
Yeah, I've seen you.
So like some countries will adopt you and they'd be like, oh, we love what you do. And then, and then like America as well. I'd go to America loads. But yeah, I mean, it's constantly changing. It kind of like, I think it's and I've always said this as advice to other artists. It's kind of like who you're affiliated with kind of matters more, or like who you know and who you're affiliated with kind of matters more than the tunes you make.
To a degree, I think.
To a degree, because you got guys. I mean, there's guys who don't even make music, like Jack Masters and I don't know who else. There's another one, but guys like that, they don't really make music, but they're just known for being like a persona and playing good tunes and being down with the right people, and you get. Those they get bookings and stuff. Where if you're not out there, I don't know. I think I'm married as well. I'm not 21. I'm not at the raves every night. It's harder because you can't. You can't. You're kind of like you're relying on your music to do the talking for you. So you're kind of like making the tunes, and you're kind of like relying on what you're putting out, and I'm hoping the music kind of like does the talking for you, Do
you because we're of the same age and we you know, we was just looking at the Bell Biv DeVoe tape there.
Yeah.
A lot of influences come from, like you say, hip hop, and I just want to get into this disco thing, and the New Jack Swing thing.
Yeah, of course.
And
Go for it.
so where did that passion for house? Where did you adopt that?
So when I have an older brother. My brother Danny. He's 2 years older than me. So when I was a kid, he'd always bring back cassettes from school. So first it was like all, you know, I think the first cassette I ever bought was Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel. So that was New Jack Swing.
Nice,
era,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
bang on the money.
Bang on the money. And but I liked everything when I was a kid. I liked Huey Lewis. I liked Phil Collins. I liked Guns N' Roses. I liked Bobby Brown. I liked NWA, Public Enemy.
Yeah.
You know, my dad had a massive record collection as well because he's in the press. I think he used to, you know, he even when they went to CDs, my dad was fanatical about music, but he was more Bob Marley, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, R.E.M.
Other pedigree.
No, but it's great. But you kind of like take
Absolutely.
it all in as well. You're like, you know, if someone says to me, "Do you love R.E.M.?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do actually," because that's what I grew up on. And I remember hearing it. But if you say if I like Bob Dylan and Neil Young, I'd be like, not so much, because it just doesn't. I never really felt it.
No,
I can understand what they're saying, and I appreciate the lyrical content. But musically, I was just like,
I have this
it's not for me.
conversation with my boys all the time because they're like Bob Dylan fans, and I'm like, dude,
I can't feel it.
I can't feel it.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, I appreciate the guy's talent. I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
But like, and my dad would be playing it, and but my mum would hate it as well. My mum was
Right.
more like me, so she'd be like, "Nah, put on."
What's your mum into?
She's like me. She likes, you know, disco, funk. You know, she was she's like Marvin Gaye, all that kind of stuff. You know.
The Rare Grooves.
Yeah, not rare goods, but I mean, just like Chic, all that kind of stuff, you know. She was she's a party girl in the 70s, 80s. So yeah, she's that's her, you know,
Rockstar mums, man.
Grace Jones and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like I remember a classic story with my mum. We were on holiday in Florida and we were driving in a car, and you know the song "Ride the White Horse" by Laid Back.
Yes,
And that came on the radio. And she's like, "Oh, I remember this song." And I remember it. I knew it because it's been sampled in hip hop. And I was like, "Oh yeah, this has been sampled." And stuff. But I never knew the original. And I remember got to the hotel and I went on eBay and I ordered a 12-inch of it. And I still, to this day, it was like if I were doing like a family party, I played like Laid Back Ride the White Horse.
Wicked.
My mum was like, "Yeah, that's what jam."
That's wicked. Off
That's
the
a great.
chair.
I mean, obviously, it's another one-hit wonder, but it's an amazing song.
Yeah,
Even
man.
to this day, because it's like prototype disco electro kind of thing, you know.
And it was sampled, you know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone sampled that, but it's an amazing record. Even now, I drop it in parties, and people are like, some people, it's all the heads will know, but other people are like, "Oh, what's this?"
That's the thing with sampling. It's like it's obvious. It's like it transcends generations. If your song's on another song that's been updated, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that's how you knew that record, you know.
Yeah. So going back to how I got into it. So my brother, he'd bring back loads of cassettes, and then I remember one time, a couple of times, he'd bring back like Rat Pack tapes.
Oh no, yeah, I know
all
that.
the raves,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the rave stuff.
DJ Psy and Jumpin' Jack Frost.
Yeah, I didn't really know the DJ's name. I know like Jumping Jack Frost and stuff, but he brought like a couple of Rat Pack tapes, and then it was all the rave stuff, you know. And this is like late '80s and during that Summer of Love, and
Yeah, that's it.
all that. But what you got to realize as well, like for us as kids, house music was on the radio, but we didn't know it was house music. We just thought it was like a dance pop song. So we'd be hearing S Express, you know, Black Box,
Shells,
Inner City, you know, Big Light, you know, all
Strike
that stuff,
and all that.
all that stuff. So we didn't really know. I didn't really know. Well, I just called it dance music. I didn't know it was house. I mean, then I realized later on as I got older, I was like, oh, that's house music. Okay. Oh, that's progressive house. Or that's trance. Okay, cool, got it. And then because for us it was pop music. We like the Europe kind of. We took this American thing and we were like, oh yeah, these are good songs. And we kind
it
of
didn't feel like it was so rigid genre-wise.
No, it wasn't. Like I'd be watching Top of the Pops on a Thursday, and there'd be these acts before me. I didn't know what it was. I'd be like, oh yeah, it's cool.
Like DJ singing, and that's it with some lights, you know.
Yeah. So I had no idea. So I just thought, oh yeah, this is cool. And then for us English, I think in Europe it's kind of like it's just what stuff we grew up on.
Yeah, that's
you know. And then so through the hip hop stuff, me and my brother got turntables when we were 14, and then he went off to college. And then I realized all the music I loved, like all the hip hop and R&B stuff, I could only buy on vinyl. So I was slowly collect, getting records. And I was always reading Lin notes, and I was looking at the song, oh, is this like something? I would look at like, in the Kamosi, Here Comes the Hop Stepper.
Yeah.
Oh, samples, 10-year guide, oh, I need to check that out. Oh, I don't know, there's so many like samples in these all these tracks. Regulate or Michael McDonald or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm like 13, 14 years old.
That's how I got into Michael McDonald too.
Yeah. But then I remember hearing the original on radio, and then I think it was late 90s. Again in the front. Amazing how much music I used to hear in cars when I was a kid. I still didn't have a driver's license, funny enough, but all my friends would drive me around. And I remember driving somewhere, I think it was in Chiswick somewhere, because my friends lived there, and Daft Punk Around the World came on the radio. And I was like, turn that up, what is this? It was so funky and fresh. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I knew what house music was, but it got, obviously, this is like late, I was still in college then, but I was definitely more, still R&B, hip hop all the way. And I heard Daft Punk Around the World, and I was like, wow, this blew my mind.
It's the one, yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing. What is this? And I went and bought the 12-inch, and it had Teachers on the B-side, funky as well. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then from then, late 90s, then I was going to the clubs as I was getting older, and I was loving all the early Defected stuff, like Sunday Service, oh God, like Cassius 99.
Yeah,
I mean, that's probably still up there as like my top 5, like Sunday Service, Cassius 99, Daft Punk. That'd be in my all-time like favorite classic. Like Norman Van Helden to me is like God.
Yeah, dude.
That guy's like
hands down.
He killed it back in the day.
Yeah.
And then so I think it was around that time, the Late House.
And Todd Terry though.
Todd Terry. I've actually done a collaboration with him.
Dude, Todd Terry. What was he doing before? He did Masters of Work, was it?
No. He did. He did produce. He put out some of their early stuff. Right. I was looking the other day, so he did help them kind of start. So, but
him and Armand Van Helden to me were just like early '90s gods, like of dance. Daft Punk was just kind of on their way through.
Yeah, but I didn't. I mean, that early '90s. When anyone talks to me about early '90s house music, I'm a bit blasé. I wasn't really into it then. So, and then it was just through that. And then I think it was later on I kind of realized I knew they were all sampling stuff. So back in the day when I was collecting vinyl, there were these white label vinyl pressings. I can't remember what they were called, but basically they would have all the samples that they were using, like the 6 latest biggest disco house hits. So I'd get them and I'd be like, that's what they sampled. That's what they sampled. All right, cool. And then slowly I'll just start getting more into it, more into the house thing. And then I think I didn't really get into it until mid 2000s when that electro stuff came. My brother was living with this one guy who was really on that electro house thing early, like the Milo Drop the Pressure and stuff. And I remember him playing it to me, and he was like, check this out. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds like some electro hip hop stuff, but it's like, with a house.
Pre-MySpace sort of thing.
Yeah. And then, so it's kind of like a journey of just like always been into hip hop and R&B. Then it was like the disco house stuff and the Daft Punk, and then the electro house stuff came, and that kind of just grabbed me. And that's when I was really DJing the clubs. And then I kind of really championed that electro house thing during that period. And me and my younger friends did. Cause like, you still had that older generation DJing, but they were probably still playing like proper house. But all of us really got into that, Trent Moller, Milo, Tiff Schwartz, all that kind of stuff. We
kind of Daft Punk
template. Even the early David Guetta stuff, like even the Bob Sinclair, Dirty South, all that stuff. We like
Calvin Harris get into
Calvin Harris's early stuff, but he was more indie. He was more indie dance kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like. Then a little bit later, then you had like Justice, and then you had like
then it really popped
bands
off.
Like CSS and
Doesn't
like the early Diplo stuff. So it's kind of like a journey of just like one thing leading on to the other, like the whole blog house thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
As a DJ, you just kind of like you just want to just like ride, And then I was really into that whole blog house. Every day on the blogs, like, oh my God, I was getting downloading everything. I thought again, Justice were amazing, like Phantom and. We Are Your Friends.
Does it offend you?
Stuff.
Yeah.
Even now, those records sound great.
Yeah,
they're really good. And then I think, oh God, I'm missing out a part here. So during the mid 2000s, I started my own label called Nod Factor. So so it's still, if you go on Beatport, you'll see all the releases still there, and you'll see a picture of me, Sam Young, and all that. But I didn't take it seriously. So I left the record company early 2000s, and I remember because I'd been talking to all the distributors and stuff, I knew that digital was the next wave, and I knew that, and I heard about this website Juno, and these people starting labels, and Beatport was new, Juno was new, so I thought, let me start my own label. So I started my own label called Nod Factor. It was after a Mad Skills song Mad Skills had the rapper had on his first album. He had
the Head Nod Factor.
He had a song called The Nod Factor.
That's the one.
I thought that's a cool name for a label. And so the Nod Factor was cool. I released a load of my own stuff, loads of my friends' stuff, but it was all kind of like just trying to like copy. I don't know what was hot at the time. Like, you know, it's just trying to be like we were doing like electro house, progressive house.
Gotcha.
I wasn't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to promo really. I was kind of like, oh, if it goes up, people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
And I was so busy DJing as well. I was still DJing like 6-7 nights a week. So I was like waking up tired and be like
spinning plays basically.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention. But if friends would send me something hot, I'd be like, yeah, cool. And I had this guy, what's his name? Sean. Yeah, Sean was helping me run this label. Sean is now, I think, big music manager. He manages like Friend Within and some other guys.
Right.
So Sean is helping me run the label. Then it got to a point where I was just like, this is a bit of a waste of time and money. I'm not really taking it seriously. So this is around 2011. So I ran it for like 5 years.
Wow.
So for a while.
That's a long time.
For like 2007, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so for about 5 years. Then around 2011, I started hearing all the new deep house, new disco stuff that was coming out. And I heard a few that were sampling hip-hop and rare grooves and stuff. And I was like, this is more me. I like this. But I can't do it as Sam Young. Everyone knows me.
Doing your thing.
Because I was in another thing I should mention, like I was one of the first guys in the West End scene to have PR. I utilized the shit out of that. Mind my language. So one of the other reasons why it sounds big-headed, but one of the reasons why I say I dominated in that era
because you took advantage of.
Because I took advantage of the PR and the contacts I had.
Interesting.
So I was friends with this guy Luke who ran the London paper. So like through Luke, we had a little agreement. Like if I saw someone in the club, I'd tell him. I'd get a name check. I knew some other people, I had PR as well. I had a separate PR. And so the whole PR vision for me was because obviously I met Mark Ronson early, I think it was like 2000. I saw him DJing for Puff Daddy at Cafe de Paris with my dad. My dad was doing pictures. And then I was like, who's this white guy DJing for Puffy? I was like, man, that's so cool. That's amazing. That's amazing. And he was a good DJ as well. And then I remember being in Tower Records and I see this New York magazine, and who's on the front cover? Draped in American flag, Mark Ronson. I was like, "Fuck me, he's on the front cover of New York magazine."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh shit!" So
did that inspire you? That inspired you?
Yeah,
to...
it did. So
yeah.
I read the whole story, and I was like, "Man, this guy's killing it."
Yeah.
This guy's Then I checked further, and I see him in all these things, and I was like, PR.
Did you have this? Yeah, PR, same promotional platform.
I was like, PR, get it. That's what you need to do. Then I went and got myself PR, and that just changed the whole thing for me because it was no one else was thinking about that. Everyone else is just thinking like, I'm just going to DJ gigs and
totally,
gigs.
yeah.
And then so that kind of changed the whole game. I was doing like launches, film premieres, like everything. I wasn't like a Z-list celebrity, but like if they wanted a cool DJ,
and it fed itself because then you've got the promo.
So this is like nowadays you'll get, I got PR friends, but they only use female DJs. It sounds sexist me saying female DJs, but it's true because they're not using men, are they?
No.
They're using girls at these
right.
things. And a lot of them, sorry for being rude, they can't DJ, but they're just there to be there.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I know a load of good female DJs, but they're not getting booked to play these things. They're booking like Z-list celebs and stuff.
What PR based are they?
I don't know, but I've spoken to PR girls in the past, and they're like, "Oh no, we're booking, whatever, like this celebrity socialite to DJ, whatever, with a Spotify playlist."
The Instagram following.
But yeah, it's all to do with that. It's like, they're social networker and they got, social influencer. They got so many numbers. So that's what's changed now.
Yeah,
it's that now.
And there's the agents are the same.
Yeah. So I know plenty of good female DJs, but they're not getting booked for that.
No,
at all, because
I get where you're coming from.
It's a game. What I mean? That's not. It's part of the game. So they're not getting booked for that because they probably don't have the social following, and one, they don't have the look, or they're not going out with a certain footballer or whatever. So that's unfortunately where we are right now in the DJ world. So when I was getting the PR, it was definitely one step ahead or maybe two steps ahead of everyone else, because I was like, I thought and it worked. It worked. I
knew the name Sam Young.
Yeah. So I was in the magazines. I was super busy. I was crazy. I was killing it. I was doing really well. And then it got so the Vanilla Race thing came because everyone knew Sam Young. everyone knew I was doing the electro house thing and the progressive house thing. So I was like, I don't want to do it as Sam Young. I need a clean slate. I need to start something from scratch, that no one knows it's me. For the first year, I didn't even tell anyone. Only a few select friends have said.
How did that fare? Because when you're doing a new project, it's almost inherent. You just rely on your phone book and just like. Yeah. I didn't know Vanilla Ace was you. I remember hitting
a lot of people didn't know.
I remember hitting you up about a year and a half ago.
I remember we spoke. Yeah.
It's like I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, I do keep on. I still do try and keep it on the download.
He says on a podcast.
I don't mind now. Because it's been like 6 years.
I mean, I think it's time to release the beast. Like,
no, people do know. I mean, in plenty of interviews, it's clear. It says, "Oh, Sam Young, Vanilla Ace."
But when you're there at the start and you've got a phone book to go, and you're just like, oh, maybe if I just tell that person, because he'll keep it quiet.
Yeah, no, they did. So the first Vanilla Ace releases, some of them. So the first big EP was on this label called Moda, and I only knew Moda just through connections of like Sean, the guy who's running my label, and John Wolf, because I was living with John Wolf at the time. And then, so Moda was part of Skint, which is
nice.
Fat Boy's Slim thing. So I was actually the last release on Moda before they went Moda Black. Moda Black was the guys who did Hot Since 82 and blew Hot Since 82 up. So the first Vanilla Ace EP, to break it down, like one of the tracks was this track called Nautical Groove, sampled Michael Jackson, I Can't Help It, which I still play in my sets if I'm doing like a lounge set, because it sounds amazing. One of the other tunes was this track called Futurama, sampled Fatback Band, Is This the Future? Another track was kind of Poolside, I sampled Mantronic's Take Your Time. And I think what was it? One more. And another one, really clever one, I called it Vanilla Sky, and I sampled the bass line from Guy, boom, 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 and I started to sped it up.
Dude,
so that was a slow jam, and I sped it up into a new disco thing. And I remember seeing the DJ reactions from like the Magician, who was like, he was very, because he still is a tastemaker, but even more so then. And I remember his reaction to Moda was best EP you ever released.
Dude.
And that spoke volumes to me. And I was like, wow, I've been doing all this stuff with Sam Young, not getting that kind of reaction. Now I'm doing something that I really feel and I like.
From the top brass.
But I'm doing something that I'm really inspired by. And then
from the heart sort of thing.
Yeah. And then I did a release of Tool Room, and I knew Tool Room anyway because I'd done a like a Sam Young Mark Knight.
Yeah, Tool Room, TOOL.
Yeah. Not Tool Room shit.
Yeah. Just for those that are listening on audio.
Yeah. So I did, and then I did some tracks of Tool Room. This one track called Layer Cake, which did really well. And then I did and I think another one way ahead of its time. I did a track called Hypnotic where I sampled Two Man and a Dog. I
need to check that out.
Yeah, so that's literally, if you listen to this Two Man and a Dog, it's literally a little riff at the beginning. And I just took that and made a whole tune out of it.
Do you think what the samples set up, that you're going for sound-wise, you can conceptualize things like the Vanilla Skies thing, right? It's just, those are the kind of things that get the ideas going in people. Like, oh, he's onto something there. That's because a sample's got so much attention to detail.
But the funny thing is, like, no one's ever come to me and be like, "Oh, I love what you did with that Guy thing or the Guy bass line." But a lot of people haven't clocked it.
No.
Because either they're not R&B listeners, they don't go and listen to Guy's.
Well, they're not our age.
Well, they're not. No. But it's not just that. But it's kind of like I'd kind of had all the minute when I heard all that new disco, deep house, for me it was just kind of like, oh my God, I've got so many things I could do with this.
Yeah.
So that's why the first year of releases was so banging, because I had like this army of samples still. That even now I've already been through a fraction of my records that I've got in my flat, because I've been busy and stuff. But every time I go through, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that. I got that, So I do sometimes get really frustrated when I hear promos. I think I was listening to something last week, and someone had done like a really lame tech house version of using the Mary J. Blige Family Affair vocal, which has been rinsed. Yeah.
So it's got to be good. If you're going to use it, it's got to be good.
No, it's got to be, not just that. But for me, because I listen to so many promos, it's kind of like it's been done 10 times before you, maybe better. So, but not just that, but it's like, I think my way of thinking and how I started when I did Vanilla Race. Like, so when I first heard Daft Punk, Armin van Helden, Chemical Brothers, when you first heard those as a kid, this was before YouTube's and in the internet, so you didn't know what they were using or what they were sampling unless you're a proper record head who knew what the breaks were. So it wasn't until later years that I realized that everything Daft Punk were using in these classic albums were obscure disco breaks. And I loved that. And I was like, I love the fact that they've taken something so weird and made it cool. Mm-hmm. So my idea was thinking like, okay, that's what I'm going to do with Vanilla Race. I'm going to try and sample really obscure stuff and just make it cool. So one of my other first tracks was this track called Get It On. And I mean, I thought I was the first one to sample it. Then I kind of like, I had the surprise. I went on whosampled.com and I was like, oops, I wasn't the first one who sampled it. It had been done before. But there was a bit of a gap in between. But I was the first one to do it in the style that I did it in, I guess. Mm. But I'd have like kids emailing me going like, or on my Facebook going, oh, what's that disco sample and Get It On? It's kind of like a really obscure disco sample. And but that's the kind of thing I wanted. I was like, yeah, I want a
conversation.
I want to give these obscure things some life.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, anyone can go and sample. Like that's why anyone can take the easy route. Mm. You know, and just go and sample like the obvious Earth, Wind and Fire or Cool in the Gang or you know, or go and sample like a Biggie vocal, like or like the obvious. Like, I mean, I've sampled Biggie, but I've sampled like Kick in the Door, like the original break. Dun, 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 dun,
so put a spell on you. That one.
Yeah. I'll go and sample that. I'm not going to go and sample Hypnotize or like, you know what I mean? But it's things like that. So it's like, I think with music, you should aim to inspire. Like that's something like I remember like when Nine Toes did Finder. Do you remember the Nine Toes track Finder? He had this really weird tropical.
What year did that come out?
It was a couple of years ago, but it was such a cool sample. Like another good one example is Ten Snake Coma Cat.
Okay.
Really cool sample. Like it's stuff that with people are like, oh, what is that from? And you want to go and find out what it is.
Creates conversation basically.
But it's kind of like you want, it's like you're not just using the same old. It's like, sampling is an art form. Like, if you can, anyone can go and get a sample. Like that's why I would love to sit down with somebody, maybe do a seminar with all these new producer kids and just be like, look, let's go look further beyond your sample pack that you just ripped from your mate.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you want the easy route in, but you want to get more respect if you actually went and did some digging.
Yeah.
And actually learn about the scene.
Yeah.
And maybe about where house comes from. Go and look at what the forefathers did and everyone else did.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like so when I hear like these I'm brutally honest when I get promos. It's someone like so with this Mary J thing, I was just like, no.
That's not the one.
That's not the one, mate. Mm-hmm. It's just like, especially if you're going to do it in a bad way, it's kind of like, no, it's not cool.
But they ain't going to learn neither if they ain't telling.
No, exactly. If not, it's like, if you do it, it's like, you're like naughty kid. Like no one tells you you're not going to learn.
Yeah.
So,
but you're right. It's like when you see somebody use a sample correctly, it, not only does it show their versatility, it shows their knowledge of the sample. Mm. And like we come from like a DJ background, a DMC background, where with restriction comes creativity.
Of course.
If you've got a sample that's really cooking,
like,
it does everything for you. You've just got to just work it within its restraints and make something awesome.
Yeah. But that's what you got to love about, the early days of hip hop. They had such limited technology, but they still made something awesome. Mm. I mean, you even think about how Armin van Helden made his first early house tunes.
Yeah,
he didn't have Ableton. He didn't have Logic. He had probably like a sampler, and he just made what he did what he did with what he had.
Yeah.
And that's why they came out so awesome.
That's right.
So
with the technology nowadays, it gets a little bit muddy water the way that you can actually.
But there's too many things you can do. So you're like, you probably get a bit lost. Like, oh, what can I do? So it's almost like you almost need to go back to how it was. So you're confined and you're like, okay, how can I make something amazing with just like this?
These ingredients, these raw ingredients.
Yeah. So, so that's kind of like how how the Vanilla Race thing kind of started.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We were saying just before we kicked off that you're bang into your comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Let's talk DC versus the more European Asterix kind of vibe. What's your favourite?
I was all over the place as a kid. So I loved the Asterix. I loved Tintin. But that was when I was younger. Then as I got older, I got into, my brother wasn't really into comics. So it's kind of like, I was really into drawings. I don't know why. Suddenly I got into drawing, and I had the G.I. Joe toys, and then I realized there was a comic, and then I loved the comics. And I loved the whole Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow aspect. I loved the ninjas thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there was something in the 80s about ninjas. Ninjas were so cool back then.
That's right.
And then, I was a big G.I. Joe fan, Punisher, like Superman, Batman. But then so obviously we're in Kensal Rise, Labrador Grove. So back in the day in Portobello Road, there was a shop called Fantastic Store, which was the local comic shop.
Didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, so Fantastic Store was in Portobello Road, was there for a long time. And that was the go-to place to get all the import American comics.
Damn.
So I was in there every Saturday getting my fix.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was kind of into everything. I mean, and I didn't. It wasn't like back in the day where the comic shop would call you and just be like, "Oh yeah, the new issue's out." You kind of just had to go in every week and just be like, "Oh, is the new something's out?" So you kind of just had to go in every week and get stuff.
That's it.
And then I ended up collecting a lot. And recently I was going through my boxes and I was like, God, I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I had everything from remember the Toys Mask, MASK, the toys and their vehicles. I had even like comics of that.
Dude, no way.
I had comics of He-Man, like crazy stuff like Daredevil, Spider-Man's. But then
Damn.
but it was a lot of stuff. And then I just realized I didn't need it all. And I was like, oh, come on, I'm not going to read them again. But also from that, but I had all the music magazines, like the Vibe magazines, the Source magazines, like the rare ones, all the original stories of Biggie, Tupac.
Oh, from the
that are worth a lot.
The import ones that you couldn't get in the newsagents normally.
Yeah. So I rang up the local school just there down the road, and I said, I got all these comics. Do you guys want them? Because I don't know what to do with them. I don't want to just throw them and give them to the comic book exchange.
That's awesome.
And they were like, yeah, we'll take them. So but then I realized some of them were quite graphic. Some of them were quite but those days like comics were a bit graphic. They were a bit like PG. So like there were like Batman covers with knives and like people getting stabbed and like shot. And I was like, I can't give this to kids. So I had to really go through. I said, okay, let me just go through them first because like some of them I don't like to give these kids nightmares.
Yeah.
So I gave them like the fantasy friendly stuff, and then the rest I kind of go to Notting Hill Exchange comic. But I kept all my G.I. Joe ones and like some of the Punishers and stuff. And like some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the graphic novel ones. Yeah, man. That's our childhood. Like I had all that stuff. Like I was a massive Turtles fan when that stuff came out.
Totally. I was a big Asterix fan.
Yeah, Asterix was cool. But Asterix to me was more like school library type thing.
Yeah, totally.
It was like Tintin school library, like Asterix, and that you'd get it. You go to the library and they had all the issues and you read it.
What was the cartoon that was like? It was like a cowboy of that same kind of ilk. I don't think it was American. I think it was probably
Dandy.
Italian. No, that was British. This one was almost like it was a cowboy and his horse, and it was very much like in the realms of Tintin and Asterix.
Cowboy and his horse.
Do you remember it?
No.
Answers on the comment section.
Yes.
Answers on the comment section.
Yeah.
Richie Rich.
Richie Rich, yeah. So Richie Rich reminds me of like Archie and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I used to have a couple of Archie comics. I don't know why. I just think I thought they were cool. I had a few issues now. I thought, it's funny.
Yeah. And you never went into animation or illustration?
So I wanted to. So before the whole DJing and music kind of took over, I used to go to I think it was up here. Actually, it was near the Labrador Grove Sainsbury's. There was I used to go to a Saturday lesson learning how to do comic book drawing.
Sick.
But at home, I was like full on in my own fantasy world. I'd have all like the wrestling. I was big WWF.
Don't get me started.
And I'd have my own like storylines. I'd be in there in my room, have my own storyline and like my own tournaments.
Yeah.
And I had the G.I. Joe toys, but then I also be doing comic book drawing. So I was quite artistic as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't academic. So I was more artistic. So I liked writing stories.
And your pops was a photographer as well, so it's like...
So I was more like writing stories, like drawing,
like
making stories up with toys and like, obviously playing with friends and stuff. And then obviously then the music came later. And that was obviously, get older, I think you just, develop and, girls come along and you're like, oh, well, playing with toys isn't cool anymore.
These chicks, man. These chicks.
Yeah, no, because that's what kind of happened. You look at your friends, you're like, oh my God, my friend's got a girlfriend. And then they're not playing with toys. But,
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, what am I still doing?
Get the damn thumb out of my mouth.
I
Come on,
remember,
let's go.
but I remember once really, I think it was one of the most cringe, actually, it's not cringe-worthy now, but when back then I was really embarrassed. I remember I went to High Street Kensington to meet a friend of mine, and he showed up with a girl. And he was like, what do you want to do? And if he had, and I wanted to go to this toy shop to buy the Bret the Hitman Hart figure because I knew they had it. And I was just like, and I was like,
Torn.
I was torn. I was like, but no, we actually ended up going because I was like, I was still proud in there. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to go and buy anyway. Yeah. But he was a bit, he just matured a bit older, faster than me. And I just remember, but like now I don't really care. But but back then I remember like really cringing, like going, oh God, I'm buying this toy in front of like my friends on a date. But I didn't care. No, because back then it wasn't probably cool. And obviously girls are a bit older and faster than guys.
Yeah, totally.
They're probably like laughing at me, going like, no.
Yeah, I was. I used to get, and this was till late, and I think this is where that kind of toy robot thing bridges a gap between like the middle-aged man that wants to collect toys. Do you remember Muscle Men?
Yeah.
Those pink toys. I was collecting them right up until I was like 19. Until they went out of, service,
That's cool though.
Yeah. It's like, there's some things that you just can't don't leave here,
Yeah.
And I guess for some people that collect the robot, kid robot, whatever.
I go past like the Lego store in Westfield and I'm like, and I see some of the big Star Wars stuff.
Man.
And I'm like,
how?
I want it.
Yeah. Give me.
But even my wife was just like, that's cool. We should buy it. But our flat's not big enough. Like we need a big house and have like one room separate so we could like sit there and make models and like.
We'll make a flat out of Lego. We can do this.
Yeah. But I think like I haven't got kids yet, but my brother's got like a 4.5-year-old, and I keep saying to him, "Oh, is he old enough for this yet?" And my brother's like, "No, he's not old enough for that
that's
yet."
cute.
So
Yeah.
I keep waiting. I'm like, as he gets older, I'll be like,
on that cool uncle tip.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna get you something cool. I still do. I do games, cool, good stuff. At the moment, he's in the Spider-Man toys phase and electric cars, like scare electric type things. Yeah.
It's amazing, like how some like Transformers and Scooby Doo and all those they've transcended generations. They're still relevant. It's mad to think when Transformers first came out, the kind of clunky kind of cassette make into a robot, make into a car sort of thing. But nowadays, it's just like
it's crazy.
It's like another level.
Yeah,
Lego's gone clear. Like it's just...
Lego's great. Like, I mean, like Lego's like so complicated. Like I remember I was with my nephew the other week, and I bought him just a small thing, like a small little race car to make, and I was like, God, it's quite complicated. Like if you miss one bit, you're so messed. You're like, oh damn, I missed a bit. Yeah. And you got to start again.
We go back again. Yeah, totally.
But I used to. Yeah, but I was massively into the whole Star Wars, Mars, Thundercats, He-Man, all that stuff. I think the 80s was an amazing time to be a kid for that.
Yeah.
For the toys and, the whole... In our age, we've gone from no technology and we've seen everything. I was reading about it the other day. Like, it's like there's a certain age group where we've gone through no mobile phone, seen every mobile phone, every computer, from normal films to 3D to like, you know what I mean? You kind of like...
But everything you saw that might happen in your lifetime in the movies, suddenly is happening, you know?
And it's only, and in the next
time.
10 years, it'll probably even get crazier.
It's crazy to think that the cell phone that we're using now is a hard version of the thing that could be just like...
Yeah, exactly.
Up, for all we know. Like, that's some crazy...
Well, I think everyone should be worried about AI.
Yeah, believe that. They're actually, my friend Reeps, he's going back and forth at the moment, trying to teach AI and computers how to beatbox. How crazy is that? Like, and they're actually they're mirroring. It's almost mirroring beatboxing too.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was saying to my wife, because my wife's a beautician, I was like, at the moment, she's got a safe job because that's quite a hard job because she's an eyelash technician. So I'm like, she's got a very popular job and she's very busy. And I said to her, I was like, at the moment, you're safe because there's no way they're going to teach an AI to do this crazy thing that you do, where it's very like particular. But, I just saw the other day that Spotify now are doing the seamless mixing playlist.
All in key, all smooth.
Oh, yeah, kind of. So soon, bye-bye DJs.
Yeah, we'll be.
Because people will have a party and they'll be like, oh, I got my own music and I can just...
We're all doomed. But all
it's scary. It is scary, mate. It's scary. It's like technology is a gift and a curse, and it's like, and people laugh about the AI thing, but I guarantee you, in the next 10 years, it's gonna go like you'll be like, what happened?
Yeah, totally. Before you know it,
it's gonna be like RoboCop.
yeah, it will be. Yeah,
Literally, you're gonna be like, we know what's gonna happen.
all our movie nightmares will come.
Terminator, RoboCop rolled into one.
Yeah. So.
You know what I mean? You just be like, what's going on?
And as if we haven't got enough stuff to do already, we're gonna have to try and play catch up with all the newer things that are happening. That's way beyond just the brand and the performance.
It's insane. It's insane. I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know. I can't even imagine what you wish you had a crystal ball and you could be like, what industry that I need to get into to stay afloat. You don't know. Guys, sometimes I think myself, because there's so many DJs now. Like I went, I want to be really honest here. I went from DJing, 5, 6, 7 nights a week. And now if I DJ twice a week, I'm lucky.
Yeah, I know.
Because there's so many.
It's the same with beatboxing.
And it's a bit like, there's a few of my friends, because there's less clubs now in the West End. So there's a few of my friends that kind of have that sewn up. So they're the ones who are doing like 3 or 4 gigs a week, but they're residents. But they can't really go they're like in that, they can't go anywhere. They can't move.
Yeah.
Because once you got it, it's such a...
It's a precious thing, yeah.
It's a precious thing. You step out, someone's going to come and take it. So,
and probably for less money, which is...
It's crazy. No, but that's what I mean. Like, so when I was starting out, going back to that, I was in college and they're like, 300 quid. I was like, hell yeah. I was like, well, yeah, that's great. That's last me ages, And then, but then again, look, I remember back then, records weren't cheap. Back then, like you want to go and get a new promo costing you like £9-10.
That's right, yeah.
I remember like the record shop would call me up, Sam, we got this new Mary J. Blige Family Affair. You want it? I'd be like, cool. Because they'd hold, for their DJs they'd hold like 20 copies behind the counter.
Yeah.
And I remember going getting it, and they'd be like, yeah, £10. So
you just drop it, don't you? You just do it. Yeah.
You don't care. So a lot of people don't realize how much money the DJ spent on records back then. It was like, it wasn't.
Oh yeah, dude.
But it's crazy to think like the difference. Like now people don't want to spend £1.50 on the download.
No, it's crazy.
It's like you had to spend £10, maybe £15 on a record back then.
Yeah, I know. It's bad.
And now people are more, they spend loads of money on a McDonald's or Starbucks or wherever, Subway, and they're worried about £1.99 for a download. It's crazy.
I know, that is crazy. That is
mad.
crazy. Even buying a ticket to go into a gig.
It's like music. The value of music is like diminished. It's kind of like because there's so much and it's like changing every week. It's like it's insane. It's the social media age.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't know the real answer to that. I think of different analogies or comparatives in like maybe the food industry, because it kind of is a bit like that. But even that,
because I was seeing yesterday, like there's all these people complaining about all these big DJs that have bought likes for their Facebook page and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, and obviously, because they outed out loads of politicians and actors recently who'd done the same thing. And it's blatantly obvious, which like, I know friends of mine that have blatantly done it because the doesn't add up.
No.
You know what I mean? You look at certain, like, you've got loads of plays and then you've got like.
But the likes don't match the numbers of people
that's very strange.
Yeah.
And but it's a shame though that that's the industry we live in. Don't get me wrong. There's so many times I've been tempted. I'm like, I want to do it. Let me cheat as well. And I was like, but it's like, but then it's like, I believe in that argument is like, it's not real people. They're not real fans. They're not the ones who.
And they cloud your feed as well.
Exactly. They're not your real. Do you really want you want real contact with people? All people are going to be like, yeah, I love that, and whatever. Not like some just generic.
And as artists, whether you're creative in design and drawing or acting or movies and music, you want to have the right people watching your shit, and that is all determined on your output, isn't it? It's all about the output at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Everything else is secondary, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's the main reason why a lot of people, they still don't get the Vanilla Ice thing, and they say to me, like, especially when I go abroad, they're like, "Oh, why Vanilla Ice?" Like funny, like thinking I'm like some Vanilla Ice,
serves them right.
fan, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I had to say the whole story again and again, and it's like, and I had to explain, I did it for artistic outlet.
Yeah.
and the whole name kind of came about just because I wanted a funny
Fun,
name, like
yeah.
like a Fatboy Slim.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Eats Everything. It's kind of like just tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
funny,
exactly,
haha,
exactly.
LOL.
Yeah,
It's not supposed to be taken serious. I mean, the name's not supposed to be taken seriously, but the music is.
Yeah, exactly. Which has got it's suggestive of fun, of good times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
of a nostalgia throwback in a way.
So that was the whole point. But sometimes I do go abroad and I do still get asked that, and I'm just like, oh God, it's like.
Well, yeah, don't it?
I know.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, I do sometimes wish I'd go. Well, if I had a crystal ball back then, I could have seen that it was going to go like this. I probably would have not done that. But then I remember I saw an interview with like a DJ Snake recently, and he said the same thing. He said if he could have called himself something else, he probably would have.
Yeah.
It kind of when it takes off, you kind of can't go and change it because it's like they know you as that.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Like, and you can procrastinate for ages. Not procrastinate. You can stay stuck in an idea. Oh, it's got to be the best. It's got to be the best name. It's got to be one that's not been created. It's got to be very kitsch yet hipster yet. If it doesn't, it's like Killa was never my first. That was never.
Killa's cool.
Yeah, but no. But with my head, it was like at the time, it was like, stop calling me Killa. I don't want to be Killa. Killa is just like But But it then sticks with you. Yeah. And then you can't live without it.
Yeah, can I do gigs and people be like, "Hey, Vanilla." I'm like, "Oh God." Yeah, Sam's my name. It's all right.
Vanilla, yeah.
Ace. Oh, let's say, let's call me Sam. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, on that note, we're gonna go out like it was out of fashion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vanilla Ace. May your travels be prosperous and your passport look like a manga comic. You know what I mean?
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
The man, Vanilla Ace, Killa podcast.
Cheers.
Stay lucky.
Cool.
Yeah, great.